Hi. I recently drove to Vermont with my mom to see the fall foliage and was about 8 hours there, about 8 hours back, and it's a lot of sitting. So today I'm going to practice for about 30 minutes just to release the lower back and the outer hips and the front hips where the hip flexors are. So this will be really useful if you've been sitting a lot, whether travel or sitting at your desk, and we'll use a block today, so have that handy. Start in any comfortable seat. And when you take your seat in yoga, you want these front hip bones to be at the same height or a little higher than the knees. So I'm just elevating a little bit on a couple folds of blanket, sitting up on a block or two can be a great option, or even sitting in a chair. And then in your seat, close your eyes. Take a few deeper breaths. And use your breath to scan your body. Getting aware of the sensations in your legs all the way down to your ankles and your feet. And feeling into that pelvis, the front hips, the outer hips, the back of the pelvis, and the lower back. And draw your palms together at your heart. You hold the awareness here of everything that was noticed in the body scan. And we'll start with 3 grounding breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling a light audible sigh out of the mouth. And take a deep breath in. Open your mouth and sigh it out. Again, inhale. And exhale. One more, inhale. And exhale. And release your hands. Lift your chin, open your eyes. And we're going to start in puppy pose. Speaking of puppies, I think mine is right here and wants to come in. Come on in, buddy. Hey. So in puppy pose, you come down onto your knees with the thighs vertical. And then bending your elbows out to your sides. Out to the sides, stack your forehead on your hands. Toes can be tucked under like this or untucked on the tops of the feet. The nice thing about puppy is it sets the lower back into its neutral curve. So it allows the low back to drop down. But if we do it with no engagement, it'll be too much of a hammock in the spine. So you do want the low spine to release down. But then gently tone your upper belly, pulling your ribs in without hunching the lower back up, right? So the lower back drops down. The upper belly is engaged. And you want to feel that there's length from the hips, through the low spine, through the middle back, all the way through the crown of the head. And then use your breath to fill the torso. So with your inhale, you feel the ribs spread, back waist, the shoulder blade area, side to side. And with your exhale, there's a sense of lengthening. Thigh bones press back without moving. The entire spine lengthens long. I like to stay low in the chest like this in puppy to transition to thread the needle here. So the lower back is soft. Place the left hand underneath the left side of the face and then just sneak the right arm through, palm up. So the right shoulder comes about to the middle of the mat. Options with the left hand, fingertips. I'll use that often because it's just a little softer. Sometimes with the hand flat, I find I'm doing too much power in the arm. Fingertips, or you could let this arm rest out long, or if it's not too strong, reach it up towards the sky. Press into the left hand, stay low in the chest so you're like sneaking through the center, and then feeding the left arm through, palm up, letting the face turn to the right. Play with that position of the right hand and the arm. Again, inhaling full in the torso and exhaling thigh bones back, spine long. Right hand to the mat. Come up to all fours. Resist tucking the pelvis under like this. Instead, thigh bones press back. Lower back releases into its natural curve. Keep that. Walk your hands out. Tuck your toes. And lift your hips to downward facing dog. Bend your knees in down dog. Keep the shoulders lifted. The breath full in the torso. And without the shoulders dropping, press the thigh bones back. Feel for space in the lower back. And then maybe a little straighter in the knees. Okay, set up for a wide stance. So step one of your feet forward, turn away from that foot, and get the feet parallel. The feet parallel, bend your knees just a bit. Turn the knees apart. So you're rotating the thighs out, touch down underneath the shoulders. Feet stay parallel and the thighs turn out. That mobilizes the lower back in. And then in the fold, hands might stay more underneath the shoulders, the spine about level to the ground. Or as you have more room, you walk the hands back. Press without moving, hands down and forward to really fold the spine through. All right, soften here. Walk the hands out a bit. Turn your right foot out 90 degrees and take a longer stance so that the right heel is in line with the arch of the back foot, this right thigh about parallel to the ground. Keep that right knee tracking wide over the ankle and then walk your hands forward wide just inside the right foot, angling a little bit to the left. Call this pose lizard dog, and it's a hybrid pose. Work the upper body like downward dog, hands pressing down and away. Press your feet down and back on the mat. Move through the center, turning the right foot in, left toes out. Again, nice long stance, both hands inside the left foot. And then walk them forward, and they'll go off your mat onto the floor ahead. You can drop your ears. Press the hands down and away. Press your feet down and back. And then bring it back to frame that left foot in a lunge, step back to downward facing dog. From dog, bring it through to plank with a long inhale, shoulders over the wrists. Low plank, you could take the knees down, bend the elbows and pull back on the hands. Now land your hips, listen, press the toenails down and apart. So you feel like the toenails are clawing into the mat, and that gives a sense of lengthening back through the legs, from the hips back through the toes. Wrists are under the elbows. Keep the legs tugging back, and then use your hands pulling back to traction your spine forward. So here in Cobra, from the hips, you want to feel like there's a split. There's a length back through the toes, forward through the spine, and there's never a jam in the lower back. Great, and then soften down, do a push-up or a press to hands and knees. And right on back to downward facing dog. Low lunge, and this is a short stance. So step the right foot forward, drop the left knee, and shorten it so the back thigh feels vertical, the front shin feels vertical. Bring your right hand to the right hip and the left arm overhead. Use your right hand to wrap the right outer hip and thigh down, and then lift your belly away from that. So you think pelvis down, rib cage up. It gives a little space in the hip flexors. It's one of those poses where it's not a lot of effort, but it's a big space maker. Pelvis goes down, especially the right hip. And then the bottom ribs right here pull back to give a lift out of the pelvis. All right, switch. Right knee under the hip, left foot forward. A short lunge. Left hand to the hip. We want to resist the hip slipping up like this. Wrap the outer hip down. Reach the right arm overhead. Anchor the pelvis down both sides. And then lift the rib cage out of the hips. That's it. Release it and stretch yourself out into downward facing dog. Now in dog, take a little wider stance in your feet and walk your hands back to your feet. Feet parallel, bend your knees a lot so you can drape your ribs right onto your thighs. The feet are parallel, big toes press down and forward. As the big toes extend forward, turn your thighs out until you feel the sacrum, this flat bone at the base of the spine, drop down. Hold opposite elbows if that's not too strong. I like to rock a little bit side to side and open up the lateral space on the sides of the sacrum, across the back of the pelvis there. And move it to a place in the middle. Sweep up to stand with an inhale. You can straighten your legs as you reach up. Touch your palms, look up, exhale, hands right through center. Release your arms at your sides. Pause here, full breath in. Open your mouth and sigh it out. Bring your feet together. Reach your arms overhead. And with your right hand, grab your left wrist. Pull up tall and lean to the side. Big crescent stretch. Let the hips widen to the left considerably. Stay square to the front by turning your chest a little more to the left. Turning your hips a little bit to the right. Send the breath low and exaggerate it into the left side. Come up to the center. Inhale, switch. Exhale. Lean to the left. Hips go right. Generously widen the hips to the right. Turn your chest a little bit to the sky. The hips a little bit to the left. And breathe into it. Inhale to take it up. And exhale, release. Clasp your hands at your lower back. Grab a strap if you can't get the arms straight with the shoulders setting back. Once you have the shoulder stretch set, feet hip width, wider if you need more room, bend your knees, stick your butt out and hinge forward. Release your bind. Stretch out into downward facing dog. From dog, bring it through to plank with an inhale. Shoulders stack at the crest of the inhale. Low plank, exhale, knees up or down. Now for cobra, land your hips. Claw the toenails down. Again, leg stretch. Back, chest forward. 2 more breaths here. big lift in the low belly. Press back, downward facing dog. A twist is so great to release the back. So we'll take right foot forward lunge. Could be back leg straight. I'm going to take the back knee down for a more doable, a little more gentle option. Right hand to thigh. Ground that thigh. Inhale, feed the left arm overhead. Pushing the right thigh down, lift up. And use the belly to get across that front leg. Try to close the left upper arm outside your leg. Hands to your heart. Work it in a prayer or flower the arms straight, vertical line from fingertip to fingertip. The twist creates more broadening across here. So the muscles of the lower back, through the middle back, the back of the torso, and even into the back of the pelvis, even into the legs. Unwind, come through the center. Switch your sides, left foot up, right foot back. Back leg straight or back knee to the mat. Use your left hand to push that thigh down as you inhale, lift up. Belly way back to get this nice deep placement. Straight arm because I have a little more room to move into it. And if it feels too deep, if the breath is catching, hands stay in the prayer. And then unwind it with an inhale. Bring it to the center and exhale, step back to downward facing dog. Now from dog, send your right leg back with your inhale. Bend your knee and twist. Your pelvis open to the right. Shoulders square. Big lift in the low belly. For lizard, step up, right foot just outside the right hand. Scoot it forward if it's not knee over ankle. Drop your back knee, but lift the hips just a bit. Move your butt back a half an inch or so. Stay here on the left. On the hands, make your way down towards blocks or bend your arms to come all the way down to the elbows. Lizard pose. Check that the front foot is opening a bit to the right. So it's not straight ahead, but it's at a diagonal. You want the thigh, the knee to track with that. Now twisted monkey, come up on your left hand. Pad your back knee if it's cranky at all about the pressure as you reach back with your right hand to hold the foot. So important to open the front of the thighs, the quadriceps, to make more space in the lower back. Release it with a controlled long exhale. Place both hands, step back to dog, pause to feel the differences, side to side. Inhale, lift your left leg, bend your knee and twist. Exhale, take that big wide step, left foot outside the left hand. Turn the toes open a bit. Keep the back leg straight or drop the back knee to the mat. But be sure to move the butt back an inch or so. And you might make your way down towards the forearms. And then come on up onto that right hand, drop your back knee. Get padding if it's too much pressure, or reach back with the left hand. Great, release it with control and press on back to down dog. Use a space maker form of down dog that I know as frog dog. Goes like this. Widen your hands and curl your fingers around the outer edges of the mat. Take your feet a little bit wider. Bend your knees a lot. Now without the shoulders dropping, so keep the shoulders lifted. Knees bent, turn your knees out. Rotating the thighs externally. Knees out. Thigh bones back. Breathe into the space that creates in the low back and the back of the pelvis. All right, and then bring it back to traditional downward dog. Walk your hands back to your feet and breathe in a forward fold. Knees bent enough that the ribs connect with the thighs. You can hold your big toes or dangle or just let the arms rest down. And if your legs are tighter and your torso is far from your legs, take a wider stance even with the feet. The feet could go like as wide as your yoga mat. All right, ease up on that. Bring your feet together and come up on the tiptoes and the balls of the feet. Bend your knees wide. So the feet are together and I'm on the tiptoes. Then walk the hands out. And fold right through the legs using the hands pressing down and away to help the spine release forward. Pull back on your inner heels behind. So the inner heels will likely not touch the ground, but they're trying. And the spine is moving forward. All right, rock that forward, come down onto your shins for gate pose. So in gate pose, we want the right thigh to stay vertical, directly under the hip. The left foot pops out to the side. Not a lunge pose. Instead, stay stacked in the right thigh. Reach the right arm overhead. We have one long line on the right side of the body. Then it comes over, left elbow to thigh. Keep the pelvis forward over the right knee. And send the breath into the right side. Inhale, take it up. Exhale, release. And switch. Left knee down, left arm overhead. And one forearm to thigh. You can feel the tightness in the iliacus here. That's part of the psoas. The hip flexor, the psoas major here that connects to the thigh bone. The muscle group gets so tight with sitting. So come into a stretch, but you don't want it to feel too taut. Meaning, if you're at that raw edge, the muscles sometimes will seize and even get tighter. So go to the edge, but then back it off a bit and just flood the stretch with your breath. All right, take it up with your inhale. Let's just meet up in downward facing dog. Sitting, of course, also tightens the outer hips. So we'll get in there with pigeon, right shin forward, knee wide. Point this foot and ankle, drop the back knee, slide it back a bit, and come on down onto the forearms. And the head you could stack your hands to rest your forehead. You can place it on a block, or I have the elbows down, palms together, and I'm bringing the thumb tips right between my eyebrows. And build it up. Place your hands just so you can shorten your stance. Tuck those left toes, step back, pause, and switch your sides. You want the sensation in a pose like pigeon, an external hip stretch, to be all centered in the outer thigh, in the outer hip, in the glute. No sensation in the inner hip. That's where the hip flexor passes through, and it can pinch if we don't have enough lift in the belly. So even in pigeon, there's a tone of the abdomen up. So we're not just dropping the torso onto the sensitive inner hip. And from here, just ease yourself onto the left hip. Swing your feet around front. Grab your block and have it handy as you make your way onto your back. Bridge pose on a block is my number one antidote for travel. And you keep the feet parallel, lift your hips. You can come up on your tiptoes if you need more room. Probably the middle height for the block, maybe the lower height. If you're a taller human, the highest one might be right. Set the block so that the glutes hang off the far edge, meaning the pelvis isn't tucked under this way, but the front hips soften. There's a hollowing here in the inner groins. And the block is about where the lower back meets the pelvis here at the low back. And it should be extremely comfortable. I like to turn the arms, palms up at the sides. Just kind of a softer expression, but there's so many things you could do with the arms, including overhead or straight out to the sides. Or a cactus. Just play with what's feeling right for you. If you get swollen in the feet and the ankles, you could lift the legs in the air here. That's a really great approach for swelling. You could also set it up closer to a wall. Let's say the wall was like 8 inches ahead of my block here. And then I could just rest the heels on the wall. And bend your knees, step your feet down. Come up off the block. Bring your hips back to your mat. And then take the feet a little bit wide. Open the arms to a cactus. Snuggle your shoulder blades into your upper back and allow your knees to drop to the left. Cross the bottom left ankle just above the right knee. Resist that right knee just a bit up into the foot. And then use that foot, that ankle, as a traction. So you're pulling from the right hip, not down, but long, out through the line of that leg bone. Get that feel that from the right hip, the right thigh extends longer. And then gently peel the right front ribs, the belly back, so you can stretch the right side of the torso up out of the hip. All right, come back to the center. Feet are wide, knees go to the right. And cross the right ankle over. Lift that left knee just a bit into the ankle. And then pull, not so much down, but long from left hip out through the knee. And then above the hip, the belly, the ribs, they tug the other way. Bring that to a close. Come back to the center. And we'll set up for a brief meditation, either in Shavasana, the legs extend out. Thigh bones now should really rest back into the mat, and palms up at your sides, or any comfortable seated posture. Just going to stay here for about a minute or so. And come back to your breath. And if you're on your back, wiggle your toes and your fingers. As you're ready, bend your knees, slide your feet up, stretch your arms up and overhead. Roll yourself onto your side. And we'll press up to sit. Draw your palms together at your heart, eyes closed. Pause to scan your body again, feeling the shifts after practice. One final grounding breath to seal. And deep inhale through your nose. Open your mouth and sigh it out. Thanks so much. I hope it helped.